when we did A Dangerous Method. Viggo Mortensen was brought in to play Dr. Sigmund Freud, which I was thrilled because I love working with Viggo too. And David suggested, he said, maybe we can do something with his nose. And I said, well, I agree with that because, Viggo has kind of like this small, like Norwegian nose, and of course Sigmund Freud, being like Austrian Jewish, had like a more prominent aquiline nose and a little bit more here. So I did 3 tests. I did like a little nose tip, I did like a bigger one, and then finally I just narrowed it down to a middle nose, which was like here, just this part and here. It was very subtle, and I put eyebrows on Viggo. We just kind of created the character when he arrived a little bit later on during filming, because Viggo doesn't have very prominent eyebrows. So, and brown contact lenses that he got in New York. And then a little addition to his beard here to make it a little bit more prominent. And that did the trick. That worked out really beautifully, and I'm very proud of that makeup. I know it's simple and it's not as spectacular as maybe The Fly, but I love those character makeups.
Because I love history, it was also fascinating to look into Freud and into Jung, and did intensive research and reading and found amazing pictures, and Nigel found a lot in London. We went and visited the Freud house in London, which was really moving. It was a dream come true for me, because I love the white dresses of the, somebody said to me, but it was all white. And I said, but that's what they wore. This is what they wore. The women wore white, the men wore black. Even navy blue was not really worn. It was very specific of what they wore. High neck Victorian blouses, and what year they changed. And, we were very careful to make sure that the progression of how the costumes changed from these white Victorian things to the suits and other things that Kira wore later. The research was phenomenal, and because it was history, it was really a pretty special project. I flew to London the night before. We did costume fittings, the original ones, and then we started to actually get into what I wanted. And Cosprop is a place in London, like we don't have here, that is, it's a rental house, but it also, they manufacture and make all these wonderful period clothes. And the owner was really helpful to me to sort of pick his brain and what I wanted. I used all original lace. Nigel and I found this in London, this couple that has a house just outside of London, and they had all the original lace. Like every piece of lace and ribbon and fabric was actually original. The brocade that I used for Freud's waistcoats were original from that period. Freud wore exactly the same tie his whole life. It was just like a piece that crossed over, and that he wore that all the time. We also did his watch exactly like he had, and we did the chain exactly the way it was. And Viggo Mortensen is so very definite about everything, that he wanted to make sure that it was attached to the second button, I think, or whatever button it was that we saw Freud had. Everything was really the attention. Viggo's very much like that, and I love working with him. Attention to detail.